And welcome into the Gary Ayd Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Online at cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app for Apple and Android. And if you have an Alexa speaker, just say, hey, Alexa, play Cave Talk Radio. Facebook Live, YouTube Live as well. Great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich, and Selmo. And quick little note, we officially have crossed the 200 app installs threshold. So thank you to our audience. We appreciate that. A lot of Appleites in the midst, but there's some Googleites out there as well. So thank you to each and every one of you. We appreciate it. And so for today's opening rant, I want to get more into this situation with the Spurs. So they're off to a surprising start. We made fun of them quite a bit in the preseason, talking about how we could find a G League team or some free agent wire pickups to beat them. And I still don't think we're wrong. You know, you have to take these early season NBA records with not even a whole grain of salt. You have to like split the grain of salt when you look at this first week. It's always crazy. But the thing is, they cut this kid Primo over allegations that he exposed himself to a female staffer. And
actually, it was multiple women.
Well,
but she's the first one.
The more that say it, the less I believe it with all of these. That's always
she's the first one to
I prove
come
it.
out with it.
I'll say every one of these stories I'm going to be a broken record on. Prove it. Because I just don't believe it out of hand. And, you know, more than that, though, this is why I've always been against is the wrong word. But I think it's ill-advised for there to be female staffers that are of the in the locker room variety. I think it's potentially dangerous, or at the very least awkward and uncomfortable for everybody in a lot of situations. I'm not saying that would always be the case. Of course it wouldn't be, but these type of stories are to me, if he did it, I don't, prove it, but if he did something like this would be a relatively mild, but still bad thing to do, right? Like, this is a far cry from forcing yourself on someone. It's a far cry from anything, aggressive, but it's wrong and uncomfortable and disrespectful.
Was it in the locker room though? Because that I had not heard.
Well, no, I'm not saying it was or it wasn't, but
okay.
But this story is a forewarner to me that if you have female coaches, for example, that would regularly be in the locker room, it opens the door for more stuff like this to happen on a regular basis. Like, you have to remember who you're dealing with. These are sometimes 20-something, other times sub-20-year-old, recently multimillionaires in a lot of cases, who are filled with hormones because of their age, and they are now filled with money because of their lot in life, and they are oftentimes full of themselves because they've gone from 0 to 60 overnight. That is a recipe for these kind of situations to happen if you add in the addition of females in the locker room or in their midst. Now, like I said, I'm not against female coaches by any stretch, far from it. But I do think there are reasons to be leery of going that route, specifically because of, situations like this that could arise and potentially worse. I just think that when I saw this story, my first two thoughts were, okay, I've heard this movie before. Let's prove it. I don't, necessarily believe it or not believe it. It's an accusation. So I think my first thought was the Spurs jumped the gun. Like I hate when corrective action is taken on accusations versus convictions. I don't care what lot of life we're talking about. That just grinds my gears. So that was always my first thought. But my second thought was, oh, are we sure we want to do this? I know Becky Hammon was fairly close to becoming the head coach of that team down the line. She grabbed an opportunity in the W, of course, everyone knows that, but the bottom line is it's probably going to happen at some point. And I think this is a warning shot of like what we could potentially see more of when that does happen. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I'm not saying we should either. This would give me concern. I think
So basically what we're saying is that a woman shouldn't be coaching because we have no idea what these athletes will do.
yeah, I mean,
I'm paraphrasing.
That's no. I mean, basically, I think there's situations where men don't belong, and I think there's situations where women are not best suited. Like, there's no reason for a man to, like, for example, this isn't career oriented, so it's not an exact analogy, but when like girls go out for girls' night out, there's always that one guy that's too clingy, that's too protective, that refuses to just let them, and that's wrong. The locker room in male sports is very much guy time. It just is. And I think it's at least uncomfortable. I was always uncomfortable when I played against women. I always was. I wrestled in middle school. And there was a woman, girl, I guess you'll say girl because we were kids still, but there was a girl who wrestled for an adjacent school. Now I wrestled weight class 110, I think it was. I intentionally lost weight the week we were heading up to that so I wouldn't wrestle her. I was like in 7th or 8th grade.
Wow.
I find that uncomfortable. And I always found it uncomfortable playing against women. I never could just naturally play. I either found myself subconsciously, but I would always catch myself. I was either holding back or I was, I was holding back. I was always holding back. I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to foul them. And you didn't feel good I didn't anyway, about scoring on them because it's like, well, it's a girl. And then I'm not saying that's right, but that's just how I felt. And if they scored on you, you felt like an ass. At least I did. So the co-mingling co-ed sports, I think, is very dicey. It was never something I enjoyed. I think sports are properly done by gender exclusivity. I really believe that. Now, by the way, I feel the same way about men coaching in the W.
I was just going to ask you.
Yo, 100%. I feel the same way. Now, it's different because the one thing that's different about it is, men are not likely to be raped by women or sexually accosted by women. That's I'm not saying it's a one-way street, but there's a lot more traffic going one way than the other. So it's a little different dynamic, but the same general principle I feel the same about. Like, that is their time. We shouldn't be involved in that. Men shouldn't be in the women's locker room any more than women should be in the men's locker room. I really just believe that. So this story with Primo really kind of got me thinking about that. And the truth is, what I'm saying right now, you're not going to hear said on other sports talk shows. No one else is going to have the guts to say this. The only people that will say this will be political commentators on the right. Might hear this from like Clay Travis, who used to do sports. That's about the only place you'll hear someone say this. Now, I'm giving voice, I believe, to a lot of people on this topic. I think a lot of people feel this way, but people are terrified to say it. It's incredibly unpopular to say, but it's just, one thing about me is I try to be truthful. I try to be myself, and I try to tell people what's really on my mind. And this is what's on my mind with this.
Understood.
It's uncomfortable.
Oh, it is. And I can imagine, even though many men coach in the WNBA, situations could turn out the wrong way for them as well.
Oh, yeah.
It could be just, putting your hand on a player's shoulder.
Right.
saying, this is what I need from you on this play, something like that. And I know I always reacted differently coaching.
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. You know, it's one thing if you're coaching at a level where there's not really a locker room. Like if you're coaching one of these like, you know, once a week weekend warrior type of leagues, that's
Yeah.
different. It's really the intimate setting of the locker room that I think really should be gender exclusive.
It does make it tough. It really does. And it puts people in no-win situations.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation. And the thing about it is it's like a low simmer, right? Like no one wants to say it because it's not popular to say, but everyone's feeling it in their own way, one way or the other. It's just not natural. Like it's not natural for a male to play against a female, even if that female's better than them or high level or whatever. There's a certain, and I think it's healthy. I think it's a good thing. I think men that don't feel this maybe aren't the best for women, but like it's natural for a male to not want to hurt a female.
Right.
That's good. But in a situation
Yes.
like competitive sports, that it becomes a disadvantage or an awkward, if not a disadvantage, it becomes an awkward, uncomfortable situation where you're not just playing. Like you'll think nothing of if you're driving to the basket, lowering your shoulder if there's a guy guarding you and you run into his chest, you know, he falls down. Like that's basketball, right? I would never do that playing against a woman. You would hold up, you pull up, you try a hook shot, you try to go reverse, like, and it's just organic. You just because if you're not a jackass, that's how you're gonna treat a woman, and you
And
should.
women don't feel the same way, though.
No, of course not. Well, it's a different dynamic.
Right.
Big shocker. Men and women are different. Hello. Um. So, it's just not comfortable, is what it boils down to, and so I think this Primo situation with the Spurs is a good indicator of what we could potentially be opening up a can of worms in the worst case scenario. I'm not saying that would happen every day, but I do think it would happen more than it would be reported. And you know, so it's just something to think about. It got me thinking about the whole dynamic of basically co-ed sports in general and how I've always found them to be really just not optimal and not comfortable when I've participated in them before.
Well, he also said that Primo himself also said that he does need to get help for this.
Mm-hmm. So maybe he's admitting his guilt. So that's
I don't know where that came from.
right.
I don't know if he was forced to do that.
Right.
Without knowing a lot of the situation, you just can't tell.
Well, you never know. That's why I didn't want to make this dialogue so much about the Primo situation because, like you just said, there's so much we don't know. But I wanted to use it as sort of a spotlight to sort of highlight what I view are the difficulties of co-ed sports. I've always found them like, you know, it's one thing if you're playing like, yeah, not every sport's created equal. Like a sport like volleyball, for example, where there's zero physical contact. Like the only time that could even matter is if you have a guy who's really good that can like just spike the crap out of the ball. He might hold back against, you know, spiking the ball at a woman, maybe. But there's maybe
the key.
But volleyball is you know, so that's a sport where like, okay, whatever. Golf is the same thing. You know, non-contact sports I think are easier to co-ed, but sports like basketball, man, it's just not comfortable. It's just not. I don't think so. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. But, you know, some will say it's worth what you paid for it. So there you have it.
Well, the way you said maybe on that makes me tend to agree with that. I don't think people look at it the same way anymore. I think everyone's just all about their own self gratification, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no,
and I don't care if I slam a ball off this woman's head. I'm not saying that, but
right.
I know a lot of people who have that attitude.
Yeah, I think there's an ingrained part of the male genetic that in a contact sport like basketball absolutely has them pull back, even subconsciously, a small amount. It's never just basketball. It's never just natural. It's just not. And some people, I'm sure it affects more than others, but it affects, I believe, everyone in a contact sport like basketball to a degree. Because it's just not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. It's why you play pickup games in the front yard with your brother, not your sister. Like if you come from a multi-kid household. Now, of course, in my case, it was just me and my sister. But you know, people that have brothers, that's how it goes. So anyway,
Unless your sister's like Elena Deladon, who used to beat the hell out of her brothers in the driveway.
yeah. And right. And how much of that with the brothers being weird out? I don't know. Like it's never.
No, I think a lot of that was her being 6'5" and could really just kick their butts all over the court.
It's just never a comfortable situation. I am not a fan of co-ed contact sports. Never have been. But hey, what are you gonna do? All right. Well, we got a lot to get to. We have to get to our radio question of the day, which is coming up next. We'll take a look at Monday Night Football. We will, of course, take a look at the World Series game that wasn't and how this impacts both teams with the rain out. And of course, we'll get to some scores around the association, around the hockey league, and we'll have our top 5 news you can use. A lot to get to. Just getting started. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All right, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. Great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo. Getting ready here for the radio question of the day in just a moment. Real quick, if you enjoy the program on any of our social platforms, be sure to like and share. It really helps us quite a bit on either the page or the group. We appreciate that. And be on the lookout, of course, for more content coming your way by way of posts. We had a interesting post about the trade of Roquan Smith, which we'll get to later today, either in news and notes or some other point of the show. But to suffice to say, the Bears are in full-on sell-off mode. Complete sell-off mode. And one of our occasional listeners, Steve, in Goshen, Steve is used to own a deli in town. And he, for decades, I mean, he was there for close to 40 years, maybe more, really long time. became a good personal friend of mine, and he's a big Bears fan. And I gotta talk to Steve because he's probably not a happy camper right now. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. In the meantime, here's the radio question of the day.
Absolutely everything about baseball is quantifiable. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
You've been working hard, doing the right thing, and paying your taxes and putting your hard-earned money in the Medicare piggy bank all your life. And now it's time to break the piggy bank and get something back. Medicare. If you didn't know it, Medicare is health insurance for people over 65, and you paid for it with your tax dollars. Medicare plans now have more benefits than ever. That's good news, especially if you're like me and looking forward to paying as little as possible for good health insurance. Call and find out what Medicare plan is best for you. Save your time. It's valuable. We've already done the research for you. And in one quick phone call, you can learn how to get the best Medicare plan designed exactly for you. Hey, it's one of the most important decisions in your life. Let us help you through it. Here's our number. Call 65 Plus Medicare now at 855-301-5506. That's 855-301-5506.
Baseball has traditionally focused on data compilation specifically for the systematic analysis of the sport. But sports business journal's Sukamasa Kabayama contends that the sport is now using its technology to develop advantages in player health analysis, specifically via the use of movement technology, which is now so advanced it can identify the slightest biomechanical inconsistencies, allowing for incredible advancement in injury prevention and, of course, performance optimization. Question for parents. Would you or would you not like to see wearable biometrics tracking technology trickle down into high school and middle school athletics?
This is an interesting question. This comes down to a question of how much you view and value privacy as an issue. There's no question the world is less private than it's ever been in human history. That's probably only going to accelerate. And I think there's people like my buddy Rob, who regularly listens to the show. He is very, very conscious, I would say overly so, of his data being available online. So he, for example, doesn't use Facebook, doesn't even have an account. He won't order things online with a credit card. Like, he doesn't use Google. Like, he's gone to what I would call fairly extreme lengths. I think that's a little much, but to each their own. Certainly not illegal. I think there's a happy medium because I do believe there should be a line in terms of what you're willing to put out there about yourself for the tech world anyway to be able to see and use. And for me, that line has always been biometrics. I don't do that ancestry.com thing for that reason. I don't do any kind of wearable technology for that reason. I don't really use the health apps for that reason. Like, I think anything that has to do with my biometric data, that is for my doctor alone and nobody else. So me personally, I wouldn't do this, but there will be lots of people that will. I won't be one of them.
There will be lots of people that will
Oh,
do
yes.
it.
There's no question.
I think only because there are so many things promised in that.
Right.
Hey, if I could prevent my kid from an injury or anything like that, part of being a parent is just worrying about your kid.
Of course.
And my biggest question is, where does this data reside?
Right.
And how many people have access to it?
Who has access to it? And then the bigger question is, what are their real true motives with that data? Is it purely altruistic? Unlikely. It's not how the world works.
As a coach, I would be interested for that reason, just to get a little more information on player performance, player fatigue, etc. But not everyone feels that way.
Right. And
I wouldn't use it for anything else. I'd have no reason to.
no, you wouldn't. I have no doubt the end users of the data, the parents, the athletes, the coaches, the people on Main Street, for lack of a better term, I have no question that their use of it would be purely for the expressed advertised benefits of it. There's no doubt about that. My question is, when you're aggregating that data is the single most valuable business asset that any business has. So whatever the company's making on the licensing or subscriptions or however they monetize the end product, you can bet that they're making a lot more on other ways of monetizing that data. And how are they doing that, to who? Because then it becomes a matter of networking, right? Like, so the way Facebook and other platforms work is I share something that gets viewed by 100 people. 10 of those people share, which gets viewed by another 100 people on each side, and so on and so on. And before you know it, very quickly, perfect strangers are viewing what you shared, which in the context of most social networking, that's usually the desired effect. But in a situation like this, company X with biometric trackable product Y shares your data with marketing company Z, who then shares that subsequent data with, business partner X, and so on down the line. Now, all of a sudden, business partner X, which happens to be a organization that perhaps is involved in political activities, now has your information, realizes, hey, we don't like what you stand for. And like, I know it sounds far-fetched, but the truth is this is how networking works. And it doesn't take long for your data to be in the hands of a complete stranger whose intentions you have no idea, because you don't even know who they are, or that they even exist. And this all happens behind the curtain, so to speak. So to me, it's too much. I find the unknown of that scarier than whatever little bit of clarity that maybe this can provide me that I can't get through alternative means. The value proposition is not there for me, is what it boils down to. There's gonna be people that feel that way, and there's gonna be people who, like you, are gonna be like, yeah, I'll do it if it helps prevent my kid's injury, or if I can learn something as a coach. Like, yeah, if I knew with absolute certainty that data was destroyed on consumption, then sure. But it's not.
Data's never destroyed.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, Facebook, and that was my reason against it, not knowing where this data resides,
right,
and who has access to it. But Facebook's just as bad.
Oh, of course it is. I mean,
you and I
definitely
could be texting completely off this app about something, and we'll each get an ad regarding what we were talking about.
Right. Which is why I said in the beginning, there's a definite balance to this mindset, because, I mean, I certainly actively use Facebook a lot, and other platforms as well, but chiefly Facebook. And having my background in advertising like I do, I know exactly what I'm signing up for with those organizations. I think most people have an idea. I don't think everyone really understands it. But the bottom line is, to summarize it, if the product is free, you're the product.
Right.
That's the way you can think about it. Radio's free.
Right.
Well, what's the product? The audience, you're the product. That's what the advertisers are buying. Facebook's the same way. It's free to use. That means the users and the data of those users is the product being sold. So I'm comfortable with the fact that a lot of my information is just out there.
Oh, yeah.
But like with everything in life, there are boundaries, or there should be. My boundary is biometrics. There is no product that will entice me to go down that rabbit hole. Just like I won't touch cryptocurrency. I think it's fake. It's not real. It's made up. And I'm not okay with it. So, I have boundaries, and everyone has to decide that for themselves. This is a good question, because it's definitely going to be a point of conversation
A very good question.
The one thing that would scare me, and I think everyone, no matter whether you are all for this or all against it or somewhere in the middle, I think the one thing that should scare everyone, and this is going to happen, and to my knowledge hasn't happened yet, but it will. Just like there are mandated vaccines to go into schools, you best believe that at some point there's going to be mandated use of these biometrics to participate in certain school sports. That's going to happen. And when it does, parents have to stand up and say no, because this should be always a choice.
Well, the last 2 years should have proven to you that a lot of people will not stand up.
No, they're not going to. That's the thing. And that's where this is dangerous, because that's going to happen. You can guarantee it. And it's going to be positioned as, we're just doing this to ensure the greatest safety of all who participate and blah, blah, blah. They're going to make it sound all flowery and nice. And maybe their intentions are that. But the backside of this business will always be the same thing. Insurance is another example of this. In insurance, the premiums you pay for your life insurance, you think that's how AIG got to build those towers up in Madison Avenue? Of course not. You know how they're making their money? Selling your data to secondary partners, marketing agencies, platforms. They're taking your premium and putting it into what they call the float, which is basically a giant pile of your premium money invested in the markets. That's where they're making that money. Not the $20 a month, $50 a month you're sending them.
Well, the insurance thing has always been a strange concept to me anyway. It's like, I'll bet you $50 a month till you die that you don't die. And
right. Yeah. Yeah. Basically.
You never win.
No,
it's
that's
a gamble.
right.
You never win.
Oh, no question about it. That's funny. That's true. It's very true. But that's a good question. I think though, for
very
me,
good.
I wouldn't touch the biometrics, but a lot of people will.
As much as I would want to know, it would be difficult for me not knowing a lot of the information regarding the data.
Right. Yep. And yeah, it's understandable. There's compelling reasoning on both sides of the argument. There's no question about it.
Like you said, it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah. You see, my problem is when they're going to make it compensatory. That, like, as long as it remains an individual choice, do whatever you want.
Right.
But you shouldn't force this on anybody.
It's seldom that easy in the long run, my friend.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's going to happen, and people have to be prepared for it. So
absolutely.
There you have it. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do some football. We'll look around the NBA. We'll look around the NHL. We have our top 5 news you can use later. A lot to get to. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do. And you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, we're back. Great to have you aboard, Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo. And let's take a look at this NFL game last night. Well, first, before we do that, let's talk about the World Series real quick. The game that was not rain out, of course, in Philly last night. Who does this help more, Rich?
The Phillies.
Mm.
I think the Astros are a little deeper pitching-wise. And I think Philly just extended that rotation. I mean, they could use game 1 and 2 starters in the 2 games after tonight. And we're going to have at least 3 more games.
Oh, yeah.
Who it hurts the most is Major League Baseball, because if this does go to game 7, it's Sunday now. And you don't want that.
No. Definitely not. I think the other thing is, I think it also hurts. It definitely hurts baseball, and it hurts the fans because
yes,
like this is just dragging on. This World Series has no momentum. It has no suspense. There's no juice to it because it's just been on ice for so long. This is like, when you cook a big batch of something and you forget half of it in your freezer and you try to thaw it out like 3 months later, it's never the same. Like that's what we're doing. We're trying to thaw out this series that we put on ice. We understand the logic behind it, like we talked about a few days ago. You're trying to avoid the NFL, which is, to your point, if this goes 7 now with the rain out, game 7 is going to compete on a Sunday. That's bad, on itself. But even if it doesn't, if this is over in 6 or 5, it's still,
you're going to get hurt on Thursday night.
Yeah, that, and it's just lacking all. Forget football. It's just lacking any and all cadence and momentum, and it just feels like, oh yeah, there's baseball. It's like a throw-in, and it's the friggin' World Series. Shouldn't be a throw-in.
I mean, the series started now 4 days ago,
right?
And I'm thinking that baseball is running out of shelf life.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, this is why they need to get the playoffs over a little earlier, even if you don't do the drastic stuff I've talked about. But like, they have to par this back at least a couple of weeks, at least 10 days. Like, get this over in October.
That I agree with.
Middle to late October. This should be over before Halloween.
Definitely.
Like, without a doubt. And like, it's just, but the reason it's not is, they want to extend the playoffs to a certain number of teams because that's what financially incentivizes teams. And then the other piece, of course, is they want to avoid the NFL as much as they can, which I understand.
Right.
But both those desires, which are both perfectly understandable, lead directly to the elongation of your season at your own detriment.
I do not want to see baseball in November.
Yeah, I don't even want to see it in like the last week of October. Like, this really should be over by like the 3rd week of October. Like, let's
that's a compromise I can get behind.
Let's have the World Series starting the 2nd week of October, middle of 2nd week of October. You're over by the end of the 3rd week of October, and get out of the picture. We'll see you in the spring.
And believe it or not, with Halloween yesterday, how much World Series would have been consumed by families?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that's another point. Yeah, you're right.
Did you get anyone last night?
You know what? We got a couple of kids. We did. And I gave them my favorite candy, white Reese's.
Oh.
Yes, I was the cool house.
Quality choice.
Absolutely.
I like that. I was at a hockey game, so I have no idea. But I talked to a friend this morning, and she bought 6 bags of candy, and it was gone in 2 hours.
No kidding.
I think it just all depends where you live.
Absolutely. That's really good. did you like? I know some people will like leave out a basket with a note saying honor system 1 or 2 per person, whatever this. Did you do anything like
No.
that? No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I've done that before.
I don't trust people that much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't either, but you know,
And it's not the kids.
right? Yeah, 30-year-olds, the
It's
40-year-olds.
the adults I don't trust. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know what though? The way I look at that, I mean, I totally agree with you. But with something like that, do I really care if one guy takes and dumps the whole thing in his bag? Does it really matter to me? I mean, it's not the right thing to do, but like, I don't give a crap. At the end of the day, you know, what does it matter? So sometimes I do it in case that it does go the way I would want it to, you know, and I'm not going to be home. Like last night I was home, so it was okay. At least for part of the night. I got home at like 7:30 or something. So,
And you know, and who wants the ring system to go off every 30 seconds?
well, yeah, I don't have a ring. I don't have a
If
ring
you
system.
do
So,
that,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you know.
Yeah, no, that imagine this is a night for dogs, man. Dogs love, and when I say love it, they hate it. Constant barking, nonstop.
Oh yeah.
The town I grew up in, Goshen, small town, only 5,000 or so residents. They've always been known for their Halloween exploits. In fact, there's a street in Goshen, Murray Avenue, that actually gets on like local and regional news because of how popular and decked out the street is for Halloween. So much
Wow.
so that the Chamber of Commerce and other local nonprofit organizations regularly take donations on behalf of the residents of Murray Avenue and then disperse them to the people who live on those streets because the street is so popular for trick-or-treaters. It becomes an actual expense. Like these people, some of these people are buying, you know, 30, 40 bags of candy on the street in this little town. It's just one of those weird,
Wow.
quirky things that just became a thing
Wow.
at some point in time, and it's just now a tradition.
You know who I really feel sorry for today? Or any day when Halloween falls on a weekday?
Parents,
No, parents get what they deserve. Teachers.
teachers.
They have no choice. They got to deal with these kids who are like walking sugar bombs at this point.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Parents should know better to ration, so they get what they deserve if they're like, "Oh, have fun."
Oh yeah. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the NFL. Last night, of course, it was the Bengals and the Browns. It's funny. This is a game between two teams that, like, historically would be considered probably among the worst teams in the NFL. But of course, the Bengals just last year went to the Super Bowl. Right now, the Browns in the last couple of years have entered the season with some expectations. I always thought they were sort of overblown, but ultimately, these are two teams who are masquerading against their long-established reputations. But I'll tell you what, the Bengals were the Bungles last night.
They were. They came off 2 straight 30-plus point performances. And the Browns came in on a 4-game losing streak. So much for that.
Yep, that's the end of that. Just like that.
Cleveland had a 25-0 lead by the third quarter, and you just knew, like, this is over. It's not good.
No, it's bad news. I mean, when you start looking,
like I said, I was not home to view it, nor I probably wouldn't have anyway, but it was not an intriguing game at all. But it's just, I don't know. It was just one of those games that, unless you're local to those two teams, what's the appeal?
yeah, you know, now next week or the week after, there may be some appeal for the Browns because Deshaun Watson's suspension is coming to an end. I believe next week is he's either eligible next week or next week is the last week of his suspension. I think it was serving a 9-game suspension. So that's going to be interesting. What do they choose to do? Like right now they're sitting at 3-5. So let's take a look here. I think Watson's suspension goes through next week, because this was week 8, obviously. So Watson was served a 9-game suspension. So the Browns.
This was week 8, but was
Right.
it the Browns week 8?
It was that they're because they're 3-5 now. Yep. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah,
So they haven't had their bye.
that's
yet.
what I was just looking up. So right now the Browns, their bye, I believe. Let's see where we're at right now. They just played the Bengals, so they're playing the Dolphins next week, the Bills the week after. So they don't have their bye. Man, when do they have their bye? I'm looking at their schedule right now. Unless they already had it, but they're 3-5, so it was.
They couldn't have.
No, right, exactly.
They've
Because
played every week.
okay, no, they're on bye this week. This week is their bye. So
Okay.
because they play the Dolphins next on the 13th. I read that wrong. So this week is their bye. So that means that Watson will have to sit out that game on the 13th against the Dolphins, which makes him eligible to return at the Bills.
Oh, good.
Oh man.
Oh, good. Bills Mafia will have some signs for that bum.
Now the
I
question
love
is,
it.
will they bring him back, or will they work him in for a week? But let's say they go in and let's say they beat the Dolphins. Let's say they're 4-5. You definitely at that point in a meleaguered AFC, you have a shot to make a playoff. So I think at that point you do bring him back. Now, if they lose to the Dolphins,
Oh, I want them to.
and you're 3-6, maybe you have a different conversation and you just put him on the shelf for the year or whatever. It's gonna be interesting to see how they handle that. And then whenever he does come back, that's gonna make for a very interesting conversation for a couple of weeks. So that's something to look at. But as far as the Bengals, they are absolutely in that big tub. We went through the exercise yesterday of kind of
Yes.
putting the 3 categories, good, unknown, and bad. And that middle category, the unknown, contained about 65% of the league. The Bengals are right in the middle. If there were 15 teams, they were a team like they were like team like 7.5. Like they're right in the middle of that. Like they are the perfect record for what they are. They're 4-4. That's exactly what they are. Complete and total undefinable right now. I
And
just
last
don't know.
night was a perfect time for them to get better.
It was. I mean, I expected them to win this game. Honestly, I expected almost the reverse of what we got. I expected them to basically put it to Cleveland, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And
Because the Browns were going nowhere.
it's crazy. While we're on the topic of football, Roquan Smith traded from the Bears to the Ravens. I'll tell you what, this guy's a
For
stud.
draft picks.
Draft picks, yes.
I can't wait to see how well those draft picks play Sunday against the
I'm going to guess they will not be leading the NFL in tackles over the last 5 years at any point in their
second
respective
and
careers.
5th round picks.
Yes. Only
If
in football.
If you couldn't get a first for this guy,
Only in football. But I'll tell you what, this
you're
helps the Ravens.
just throwing it away.
Oh yeah. I mean, but this helps the Ravens in a big way. I mean, look,
Yeah, it does.
for so many years, decades, it's just like, the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense this year hasn't really been that great. It's really been their offense.
Yes,
They needed this. This really helps them.
it does.
And
It does. It was a very smart move by them.
Yep. And they trade draft capital so well. I mean, they mix draft picks with trading draft picks for established players based on need as good as anybody. That front
Yes.
office is a machine.
They are. And they do. They always have. They have for a long time.
Yep.
And that's just a typical move. It's like, giving the Bears fans the middle finger.
I think it's
Yeah, you're spending big money. We don't care about you. We don't care at all. let's make the product appreciably worse for you.
Yes.
They've done over the past few weeks.
It's rough. It really is.
Why anyone gives their money to sellers in any sport is beyond me.
I mean, there are times when it's understandable. Like after Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City, for example, it was understandable why the team would look to kind of rebuild rebuild and break it down. But like the problem you run into is, okay, you got 4,000 draft picks now. We can start using them and seeing some good players. Like, at some point you have to, turn the corner. And that's been my criticism of the Jets. Now they've drafted horrendously up until the last couple of years when Douglas took over. But even when they hit one, they would trade the guy for draft picks after he got good before they had to pay him. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, if you're going to get good players and you're going to be good, at some point you need good players to be good. Hello?
Agreed.
Like, pay the guys. It's like,
agreed.
And by the way, Jamal Adams has
do that perpetually. I just don't like.
Well, how could you? I mean, and like Jamal Adams right now is killing it for Seattle.
He is.
He's a big part of their success this year. I mean, they might win that division.
The way the Rams are playing, they might have a shot at them.
They got crushed. I mean, I think the Niners are going to win that division. I know they've had their ups and downs this year, but at some point, I just think that talent's going to even it out. I mean, with McCaffrey, I just can't see them not winning that division. I have a hard time imagining that, given where they're at right now with that roster.
I think the Niners do as well.
Yeah, it just is.
Although
such a
I
good
think
roster.
Seattle has some more wins left in them.
Yeah, they seem to be. Like, there's always that one team that always find their way into extra wins than maybe they should. So they seem to be that this year. One thing I wanted to say real quick while we're on the topic is looking at the way the Ravens are now structured. I think there's a good chance that they would be the toughest dark horse for Kansas City or Buffalo at this point in the AFC. That is a team, if I was Buffalo or Kansas City, I would want no part of in the playoffs because they are absolutely capable of beating either team on any given Sunday.
Especially early in the playoffs.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And that's always the problem with the bye, and your first week is against a big physical team. It's tough. You lose that little bit of an edge with that bye. I get why you want it, and you want your home games. But yeah, Baltimore would be tough for either team, no matter who ends up with the first seed in the conference.
There you go. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We got the hour in the books, 1 hour to go. Top 5 is next. News you can use around the association, around the NHL. Back after this, it's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Hour 2, the Gary Ayd Show. Here on the Cave, cavetalkradio.com, Cave Talk Radio app, and of course Apple CarPlay, Facebook, and YouTube Live. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo getting set for Hour 2. Top 5 around the corner. But just a quick PSA, if I may. Look at me, I'm rhyming. I'm not even trying. Look at that. Tomorrow, a week from today, is Election Day. Vote. I know you all have opinions because I see them on the internet. In order to have those opinions, you must express your opinion in the official way, which takes maybe an hour of your life, maybe more in bigger cities. It doesn't matter if it takes half the day. It's important. Vote. I would say I don't care who you vote for. That's not really true, so I'm not going to say that. But vote anyway. We do your job. Do your duty. It's an absolute civic duty. It is one of the things that marks a free society. Don't take that for granted. Vote. All right. Now that said, it's time now for the top.
And if you're one of the people who already have, thank you for that.
Well, there's early voting. Yeah, of course. I don't do the early voting thing, mostly because I have to go and find out where my early voting in-person poll thing is. I don't ever do the absentee or anything like that. But yes, I just go on election day because I know it's easy to find where it is. With the early voting, there's certain specific polling places. Not all of them are open like they are on election day. And I live in an area that's small enough where it's not a big deal to just go on election day. Understand the value of it for larger metro areas, because that could take you all day if you're there on election day. So that's really what the early voting is good for. So for larger cities, it makes total sense. I'm in a city of 30,000 or so. It's not small, but it's not huge. So, even on a presidential election, which of course are usually greater turnouts, might be an hour and a half. It's not that big a deal. That's the longest I've ever been online to vote was the 2020 election. So
the fact that it's right around the corner from me made the decision easy.
Yeah, well, if it's right there and you can just do it and you know about it, then yeah, it's whatever. Early voting is good. But vote early, day of.
Not late.
Not late. Yeah, don't be a World War I veteran voting from the grave.
Be alive.
Yeah, let's be alive. Yeah. Funny. There's a meme of John Wayne, the famous actor, said, "Yeah, when I was alive, I was a regular Republican. Now that I've been dead, I vote regularly Democrat." I got a good kick out of that. I was like, "Oh, that's great." Anyway, let's get to the top 5.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for King Talk Radio's Top 5.
All right. Armed with my fresh tea. This is honey ginger tea made from a gelatin, a Korean product. There's a coffee shop in town that makes these. And then one day when I was doing my grocery shopping, I happened to spy a bottle of this stuff, a jar of this stuff on the shelf. And I was like, well, let's do it. Now, it wasn't cheap. The jar was about the size of your standard pickle jar. But
what do you have to do to it? I have never seen this.
Yeah, it's just like a gelatin. It's similar to the consistency of grape jelly. A little bit looser than that, a little bit less dense. You just put a tablespoon or 2 of it into the bottom of a cup, dissolve it with hot water, and that's it. And just pour the water over it and drink it. So you can drink it hot or cold. My advice is if you're going to drink it cold, which this is hot, but if you drink it cold, put a little bit of hot water in initially, dissolve it, then put cold water on top and add ice.
Oh,
The
okay.
high temperatures dissolve it.
Put some water in and viola. You have tea. Delicious. I like that.
Yep,
that's
honey
interesting.
Ginger. There's even little pieces of ginger, like ginger shreds in it. It's really
fresh.
and
That's the best.
Strong. It's very potent.
That's the best. I do like a good tea with ginger.
Yeah, this is a honey ginger. It's perfect. It needs nothing. Like you could add a little lemon to this if you want to, like a lemon slice, but it really doesn't need it. It also makes a good hot toddy, which shouldn't just be for when you're sick. Hot toddies are good. I'll drink those just on a cold night, just because. I mean, whiskey makes everything better.
It's very good in the temperature related area. Yes.
Whiskey makes everything better. All right. What do we got for today's top 5?
Okay. Seeing as how it is World Series time, and if we ever get this World Series back underway.
If we ever get to play, right?
Name me your top 5 moments in World Series games that weren't rained out.
Oh man. Well, Joe Carter has to be in that conversation. Now I'm going to do this more broadly than just in my lifetime. I'm going to do the ones that I like the most, whether I was alive for them or not.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Okay, yeah. Yogi Berra jumping into the arms of Don Larson after the perfect game, more so even than the game itself, is that image. I love that. I think that's so cool. Let's see. Unfortunately, the Mets don't have a lot of them. Their best World Series moment was brought to them by an error by the other team. It's kind of sad.
Oh, I disagree, but I was here for 69, so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they had better moments then. But
and they beat a great Baltimore team in 69.
Yeah, well, the Orioles of that era, the early 60s through like the early 80s, that 20-year period, the Orioles were as good as anybody in baseball.
The Earl Weaver years.
Yep. Let's see what else we got. I think one of the coolest moments for me was 2001. That's easily my favorite World Series that I've been alive for. Randy coming out of the bullpen, Game 7, the day after pitching like whatever it was, 8 innings of like, high stress baseball, comes out in relief of Kurt Schilling, who was pitching himself on 3 days rest. I just can't. I love that the more time goes by and the more things change, the more I love that, because really Bob Brentley, the manager of the Diamondbacks at the time, was like, the hell with it. We're probably never going to get here again. I mean, I've never said this, of course, but I'm sure he was thinking it. We're the Diamondbacks. We're at that point a recent expansion team. I think they came in the mid 90s along with the Marlins. So like, they're like, well, I'm going to run these 2 horses right till the bitter end, and we're going to just go with that. And that's exactly what he did. Those 2 guys basically won the World Series with a couple of timely hits sprinkled in from some of the players.
It worked. And that's the best thing. It worked.
Like I think the 2 of them combined to start 6 of the 7 games. I think either Brian Anderson or Miguel Batista got like 1 random start. Like, so I think they combined to start 6 of the 7 games, and both made at least 1 relief appearance, all in the 7-game series.
And the thing is, back then, it wasn't that long ago, but back then every team didn't have Josh Hader coming out of the bullpen to pitch the 9th.
That's
so
very
can
true.
you imagine dealing with Schilling for 8 innings? Then all of a sudden Johnson
here's
comes
Randy
out
Johnson.
For the 9th?
Like, come on, man, this isn't fair. It's true. And for some context to kind of highlight your point, Rich, because you're absolutely right. There were a lot of meager closers at that time, and the Diamondbacks knew that very well in that series alone. Byung-Hyun Kim provided Yankee highlights, 2 walk-offs in back-to-back. I think it was game 4 and 5.
Yes.
It's pretty
I
epic.
mean, the closers, there were a lot of closers that weren't bad at all.
No, I mean, you had some good ones. You had Trevor Hoffman was a great closer for the Padres. Joe Nathan.
Not every one of them threw.
Right. Yeah, so it's
like a lot of closers do now.
Oh, no, I mean, Trevor Hoffman was a changeup pitcher. That was his out pitch.
Yeah.
Was a changeup. Joe Nathan, he's actually quasi-local. Joe Nathan is from, I believe, Circleville, which is about 10, 15 minutes west of Middletown. there were a couple. There's been a number of local guys from this area. Joe Nathan, Matt Morris is from the area. So is Mike Aviles, the former center fielder for the Royals. So there's been a number of baseball players from this area over the years. But yeah, so that one comes to mind right away. Let's see what else. I could name almost a top 5 from just that series. I mean, the Luis Gonzalez hit was cool, of course.
Yeah.
Both Kim plays. I mean, that whole World Series is just etched in my memory. But moving away from the 0-1 series, certainly Kirk Gibson's home run is iconic. That has to be on the mention. Buckner's error has to be there.
Yeah.
I liked in the World Series, I think it was 2003. I liked the Marlins and Josh Beckett becoming like, Cy Young for a month, and it like turned his career around. He from that point on, he had this like reputation as this like big game player. And then when you look at his career, it was just a average pitcher, like, 4-something ERA. I don't even know if he was 500. He might have had a losing record for his career, but for that like month, he was Cy Young. He was Sandy Koufax. So it kind of is interesting looking back on it now. It's like those can really make a career. I mean, the way he performed in that October probably netted him about 65% of his career earnings, which were subsequent to that.
Yes, absolutely.
It was all based off of that. I call it the Matt Flynn effect. Have one good game at the right time, and boom, to quote John Madden, here's some money.
And you see it in every sport.
It happens all the time. A good basketball version of that. Remember Mike James, the little like scoring point guard? He had like one random year where he averaged like 20 points a game or something. And all of a sudden he had like a 10-year career and he was basically a third string player his whole career.
Except for that year he was.
It's like so funny.
And yeah, he had like a 12-year career out of that.
Yeah, off of one just weird year. It's so funny. Let's see. So that's definitely on there. Kirk Gibson. So far I have Kirk Gibson, Randy Johnson out of the bullpen, Luis Gonzalez. I'm going to go 2 with that series. I have to take 2 from that series because it was such a series for me. So I got
Yogi
Berra. I mentioned Joe Carter. So we have 5 on the docket right now. We could add a couple more and then parse it out. Buckner, of course. So that's 6. I think the year that this is a negative memory, but the year that the Angels 2002 won the World Series, I was very upset. I really wanted Bonds to win it. So that was that whole series was just a bummer to me. Of course, the Red Sox in 2004 breaking the curse of the Bambino. I think Curt Schilling with the bloody sock was pretty epic. Was that year, or was that the one after that? Because they won 2 in a 3-year period.
That was that year.
It was that year. I thought so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was amazing. And I remember people saying it's ketchup. Yes, because people put ketchup in their socks. Again, it's insane.
Hey, you never know when someone's going to throw French fries, man.
That's right. We need to be prepared. That's right. But what if they're curly fries? The ketchup's going to ruin it. You can't have the ketchup with the curly fries.
That's right.
Curly fries need no accompaniment. They just need to be eaten.
Oh, I've had them with a nice Cajun dusting, and they are.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. Curly fries, they're just like.
Oh, come on. Reluctantly, you can see
I can see it. I was really talking about liquid condiments, I think, not so much dry rub seasonings. But yeah, I could see occasion or like a blackened seasoning. All right, so that gives us 7. So let's try to who's not going to make the cut. I know it's an iconic moment, but it didn't really mean a whole lot to me. So I'm going to cut Joe Carter.
Okay.
So that one's not going to make my cut. And I think I'm also going to cut. The Gibson home run for the same reason. It just, didn't matter so much for me. So
It was an iconic image, but
Yeah.
these are yours.
yes, yeah. So for those reasons, those two are going to be cut. So that leaves us with a 5 of Yogi, Buckner. Well, Yogi, that's mean. Don Larson's perfect game where
Yeah.
where Yogi jumps into his arms. That's the part that's etched in my memory, in my mind. Anyway, I wasn't alive for it, of course. So we got Yogi and Don Larson's perfect game. We got Buckner's error. We got Luis Gonzalez World Series winning single over Derek Jeter. That was amazing. We got Randy Johnson coming out of the bullpen that same game. That was equally crazy. And then the last one is I think what do I have here? Not Carter, not Gibson. I think just the loss of the 2002 World Series. That one really bothered me. And I also mentioned Josh Beckett, but I'm gonna go with the 2002. So I'm gonna put 2002 at the back of it. That's gonna be my 5th. 4th is gonna be Yogi and the Larson play, the Larson perfect game. 3 is gonna be Buckner. 2 will be Randy Johnson coming out of bullpen, and 1 is Luis Gonzalez hitting a blooper where Derek Jeter should have been standing, and instead Jeter thought he was so smart, and boom, you lost the World Series for your team. Good for you.
Yes, I like that one a lot.
Because that barely landed on the grass. Like literally, it landed on the lip of the grass and the infield dirt. That was just a weak fly ball, but Jeter, for some unexplained reason, was playing really far in.
Yeah, and I didn't understand that at all.
And boom, just like that. And the irony in that whole play is that same year, Luis Gonzalez hit like 56 home runs. It's funny that he wins it on basically what should have been a routine infield fly, makes it really that much funnier. So that's my number 1.
Out of the 7 you listed, you encapsulated 4 of my 5.
Okay, what was the one I missed?
The only one that wasn't mentioned was weak hitting shortstop Al Weiss. Who just a defensive guy who hit 200. Plays in the National League game and hits well against Atlanta in the National League Series.
Yep.
And then goes to the World Series against Baltimore with all that pitching and hits 455.
Something, man. I could have also thrown in the play of Madison Bumgarner with the Giants for all those years.
Oh yeah. Do you know, I read somewhere that if Madison Bumgarner pitched today in a World Series, didn't get anyone out, and gave up 23 runs,
I can see this.
his series ERA would be higher than
lower than Verlander's.
Lower.
Yes.
Lower than Verlander.
I did see that. Isn't that something?
Do you believe that?
That's insane. No, it's crazy. It really is. So that was a good top 5. So we got some NBA to get to, some NHL, and the news you can use. We got about a half hour to play. Let's take a break, come back, and we'll continue on. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now. with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All right, so NBA in full swing. And I had a friend of mine text me last night, my friend Dave. He texted me and goes, I haven't watched the NBA in a long time. I like the Warriors now, but I was a Knicks fan back in the day. Guess he's old enough to remember the championship years. He said, how good are they this year? Like, I think he's trying to, without getting too back into it, trying to look into getting back into it. And I told him, I said, look, I think it's an interesting year because I think the Knicks are significantly improved. But I think that the East is as good as it's been in 20 or so years. So I think that it might not feel or look that way because they're still going to be near the bottom of the playoff field. But they're, in an absolute sense, better than they've been in a decade or so. Really, since their Jason Kidd, Carmelo Anthony, playoff run of 2012. I mean, this team is legitimately good. It's just unfortunate for them that the East is just absolutely loaded.
Right.
So
tell them to check them out on Christmas. By then, you're going to have a real idea. Make sure you watch the Christmas game. You'll have a real idea what the Knicks are going to be.
I think that's fair.
And it could be good.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Well, you see the Nets game last night against Indiana. Fans greeted Kyrie courtside wearing yarmulkes and fight anti-Semitism T-shirts. It didn't matter. The Nets beat the Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
that's going to be an issue. That's not going to go away for a little while. I mean, eventually will.
Well, considering where he is too.
Well, that's just it. That's why, right? That's not going to go away for a while. But the truth is, this guy is an individual, right? Like, ultimately, he is probably the most strong-willed individualist in the entire NBA right now. It's a league that does not promote that. It actively encourages uniformity. It's got a very union vibe to it, all for one for all type of thing.
Yes.
More so, I mean, all sports are that way to a degree, but the NBA is far more like that than baseball, hockey, or football, like a lot more. So it stands out like a black sheep. It truly does. And I'm here for it. I love individualism. I'm a complete individualist. I believe that in the world, whatever there are, 7 billion people, whatever it is, there's no black, white, Greek, Italian. There's you. Like, when you're living life, you are living your life alone. We don't get to switch. It's not like a video game where you switch between various playable characters. Like, no. Every minute of the entire time you're on this planet, you are you.
Right.
And so, in my opinion, you have to live that way. Like, it's good to be aware of what's around you and the broader picture, but you should never make a decision, in my opinion, based off of the others around you. Now, at least not an important one. Now, it's one thing if you say, we're going out to dinner. I don't like Mexican food, but I'm with 6 people and they all want to go Mexican food, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. But like when you're talking about making an important decision like a vaccine, or you're talking about just being true to your own convictions and not stating something you don't believe, that second one will be important to some people, not to others. It's obviously important to Kyrie, and I'm here for it. Like, whether I agree with him or not, it doesn't matter. I appreciate that level of individualism and candor, and I'm 100% on his side with going about what he did with the vaccine. That's all. That should only be an individual choice and absolutely nothing else.
Well, and the thing is, everybody's taking this very seriously, but I saw excerpts from the book that was quoted, and they spelled Adolf Hitler's name Adolph. So how historically accurate is this book?
Oops. Bunch of garbage.
Other games last night, a game I thought I might want to watch, and I'm glad I didn't. The Raptors blew out the Hawks by 30.
Damn.
I thought that would have been more interesting.
The Hawks are a weird team, man. They really are. The last 2
are.
years, they've been very strange. After their little burst on the scene 2 years ago, where they made that deep playoff run, I really don't know. I mean, I never really jumped too heavy on the bandwagon. I am never impressed by teams that are led by really small guards. My knowledge of NBA history tells me that it almost never works. Really, the only example of a small guard being the best player on a championship team, really in NBA history, a multi-championship team, I should say, like almost you call a dynasty, is Isaiah Thomas with the Pistons.
Yeah.
He's really the only example. I mean, you could say Curry, but Curry's 6'3". Curry's not as small as you think he is.
Right.
He's a standard size. He's a standard size point guard. And I've always said I think Klay Thompson is the real engine of that team. But that said, the Hawks are just a weird team that I don't really know what to make of. Them. I really don't. They're just strange. They're built weird. I think John Collins is probably the perfect encapsulation of what I'm talking about. He's a weird player. He's a good player. And this is a good, talented team, but he's a weird player, man. He's a strange duck. Like, he's got a real in-between type of game, real in-between type of build. I don't know what to make of this team, Rich. I really, truly can't figure them out.
I haven't known what to make of this 2 years.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Other than I know they're not better than all the teams they would have to beat to get out of the East. That I know.
I appreciated the nice run they had in the East a couple of years ago.
Yep, it was good. But
do I expect that from them? Absolutely not.
It's hard to see. It really is. So tonight's slate of games, you got the Bulls and the Nets. This game is in Brooklyn. Warriors and Heat. Suns and Timberwolves. Those are 3 pretty good games. There is a 4th game today, but I almost feel embarrassed saying it. Magic and Thunder. Ugh.
One I won't be watching. Safe to say.
Oh, God, what a mercy on us. Of these games, I'm, I think, most intrigued by the late game, by the Timberwolves and Suns. I've always found this Timberwolves team fascinating through the years, more so now. Suns have clearly got off to a good start. They're 5-1. Timberwolves are 4-3. If I can stay up late enough to watch some of this game, I plan to. The Warriors game, which starts at 7:30 in Miami, doesn't intrigue me as much. It's early season. Like I said
I'm not
earlier,
thrilled with the way the Heat are playing.
That's what I was just getting at. You're right. There's something amiss there. They don't feel like themselves.
Right.
And then the Bulls.
I'm not loving the way the T-Wolves are playing either, but the Heat are just.
Yeah, I mean they're what, 2-5.
they're off kilter, and I'm not sure if they know why.
That's the part of this you just nailed it. I mean, that's the part of this that's concerning is like I can't really pinpoint why they're off. Like everyone's playing, they're not really injured. I think this is what I think. I think this is a team that is subject to burnout and fatigue more so than any other competitive team because they don't have a true number 2. And Jimmy isn't a true number 1, an effortless number 1, the way Luka is, the way Kawhi is, the way LeBron or KD is. Like,
Right.
he makes himself a number 1, but it takes him an incredible amount of energy and effort every time he does that. And you only have
really
so many of those games in your body. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think Jimmy has been masquerading as a number 1 for 3 years now. They've had, I think, success beyond their capabilities, in large part thanks to his superhuman will and effort. But I think all of that is coming with a price. I just think he's out of gas. I think they really need someone better than him so he can slide into his natural lot in life. That's what I think.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
He could be the best number 2 in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not a number 1 really on a night-to-night basis. It takes too much out of him, I think. So that's my feeling on the Heat. The Nets, I just don't think they're that good.
Agreed.
They're just not a good team. I like some of their role players. I like Curry. I like Harris. I don't like a whole lot else. I'm not a big fan of the Ben Simmons fit there. I think it's a bad fit. I thought it was a bad fit from the start. I just don't see how he's successful because the two guys that he's around need the ball in their hands, and so does he. KD a little less so than Irving, but still, I think that's a weird. I think this team is in for a losing season, or a 500 season at best.
Agreed.
Hey, there you go. Hit us with the NHL. What do we got?
Just 3 games last night, but this is interesting. The first one I had the privilege of being at. Tage Thompson arrived at the game for the Buffalo Sabres dressed as Wayne Gretzky.
Nice.
He goes out and gets a hat trick and 3 assists that ties the record of 6-point performance on Halloween night. He's tied with the Hall of Famer Bobby Clark and, of course, Wayne Gretzky. Pretty
That's
funny.
Awesome. That is great.
Played an amazing game last night. I felt sorry for Nedeljkovic, the Detroit goaltender, by the time it was over. The Sabres had attempted about 77 shots, and he looked exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. No other games involving locals. Carolina beat Washington 3-2 in a shootout. The LA Kings just trounced St. Louis 5-1. When the St. Louis goalie was pulled out, Binnington, he went over to the Kings bench and just started screaming at them. I'm like, what the hell can he be telling them? How dare you score goals against me? Come on.
Oh, that's funny.
One piece of news I don't like saying, but I have to. Well, I have 2 pieces, and I don't like saying either, but this one really bothers me. Alexandra Merzlikins, the wife of Blue Jackets goalie Elvis Merzlikins, used her Instagram account to post disturbing exchanges she said she's experienced this season with fans. And she said, this is enough. Yesterday night, I heard you, your kid, and your husband should die.
What?
You and your husband are trash. Screaming their son's name. He's a year old, by the way. And thanks to all this, he doesn't go to games. And the thing is, of all the players to do it to, I know the goaltender gets a lot, but one that is uncalled for anyone. And two, this guy does more in the community than anyone else on that team. And I think this is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a 1-year-old. That's just stupid. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
What in the hell is wrong with people?
That doesn't even make any sense. Now, the whole you and your husband are trash thing, it's mean and unnecessary, but like that's, to me, that's like right at the end of the line. Like you guys should die. That's clearly over the line. Talking
Why
about a
is
1-year-old.
she trash though?
Whatever. That middle one doesn't really, to me, that's like one that you just ignore, but the other two are not, that's not okay.
I mean, these two do a lot of charitable work. They spend like his off time at children's hospitals, and it's ridiculous. And unfortunately, the interwebs have made keyboard warriors out of the worst people in the world.
Yep. Keyboard warriors. Well, like Mike Tyson always says, people got too used to not being punched in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. And some of these people need to be badly. The Anaheim Ducks announced that defenseman Jamie Drysdale is out 4 to 6 months with a torn labrum. He's only 20. He's going to require surgery, most likely miss the rest of the season. And that's one of their special young and talented players. And I always hate having to report stuff like that.
Yeah, it's no fun.
And there you have it.
There we go. There's our hockey update. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up with some news you can use. It's the Gary Ayd Show. You're on the Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. Have unsold seats? They use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on. You watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then, if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, it's time for some news you can use. Haven't done this in a while. What do we got?
Yeah, I have some interesting stuff today. A report came out about the souring relationship with fans could cause Aaron Judge to leave the Yankees. I know you saw this. Bob Klapisch said that the relationship is only getting worse. He also noted how both Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks were taunted by the fans, and how the father of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa received threats via social media. You know the treatment Judge got. He said that players on the other teams talk about it. And he's going to wonder if that gets to the point where you have some free agencies and say, do I really want to play for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because, like, I think that no, I blame this on ownership. I read a good article the other day by a writer for Sports SB Nation, Matt Cavalen, Cavalleno or something. I'm mispronouncing his last name, but he writes for the Pinstripe Alley blog on SB Nation, and he wrote a very good piece that essentially broke down the financial tetherings that are making the Yankees operate and baseball in general. So the Cliff Notes version is that the Yankees will have the highest payroll they've ever had, but it will be at a lower ratio of their actual revenue and net worth than it's ever been as well. So while the top number looks impressive, it's actually a much lower percentage of revenue going back into the team than ever before as the Yankees fatten up on margins. And so essentially it's the equivalent of a bank offering you lesser interest rate, but because it's a lower interest rate on more money, the number that you get from them is the highest number you've ever gotten, but it's actually one of the worst returns you've ever gotten. It's the same concept in reverse. And I think that while I think most fans don't understand that or even necessarily know that, I do think most Yankee fans are wise to the idea that it's not really Steinbrenner's game to want to just win at all costs and win a championship. I think it's pretty clear that he's very comfortable and happy just being competitive. And if one year everything goes right and they happen to win one, that's great. And I think that mentality, which would be, I think, well accepted in a lot of cities, just goes so against what Yankee fans for decades, really a century or better, have been conditioned to believe. So I think they end up sprouting out that frustration, which they don't even necessarily understand, on the players. And I think it's a negative spiral that I trace back to ownership not being in alignment with what the fans in their city happen to want. So I really, at the end of the day, I put this on Steinbrenner. I really do.
Oh, interesting. Now, to stay with that theme, Mike Francesa also said Yankees got to be tougher and deal with this.
I don't disagree with that either.
He said they booed Joe DiMaggio, they booed Mickey Mantle.
Right. Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. I think he's right.
He said they booed Derek Jeter. He said Judge has got to get tougher.
I agree with that too.
He said all the players do. And he also said you don't perform, you get booed.
Yep. That's right.
You perform, you get a ticker tape trade. So it's a playoff that it's a trade-off that you need.
No, I don't disagree with that either. I was going to go that route too, but I wanted to kind of go the bigger picture there as I see it. But no, I couldn't agree with Mike more. And he's missed on the local airwaves. I could tell you that. At least speaking for myself, I thought he was one of the best to ever do it. I absolutely love Mike Francesa as a talk show host.
Agreed. He's a legend. What you were talking about earlier with the NBA when we were talking about Kyrie doing the group think thing.
Yes.
No one claimed Josh Primo off waivers after the sexually inappropriate allegation behavior.
Right. Well,
he's got a 2 more years on his contract. This and next at $4 million a year, which is pocket change in the NBA. And no one wanted to take a shot at him, which is surprising considering he was a lottery pick.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. Maybe you know better than I do because I don't know really anything about this guy. I'd never heard his name before until this. So I don't know what type of player he is because he definitely could fall into that category of the juice not being worth the squeeze. Just, but
he had some moments last year.
Okay.
And he was actually playing better out of the gate this year. He was making that next step. He was a regular contributor, well, a little under 6 a game, but didn't have major minutes. Maybe people figure he's just not worth it, but he's 19 years old.
Yeah.
There's rookies in the league older than him.
Yep. No, I mean, look, I wonder if he will eventually get signed, and if this is just going to be, we have to wait the storm out for a little while. Because this is the type of thing people will forget about in 2 months or less.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, these things have a way of blowing by.
I mean, look at Miles Bridges.
Yeah, that's a worse situation than this.
Yeah, he's got 3 felony counts of domestic
I
violence.
was going to say, he's in heavy water right now, yeah.
And, no one's going to take a look at him.
Right.
And I actually get that.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly want to see the court cases play out first at the very least.
Right.
I don't know if this Primo situation is going to rise to the level of court cases or not. It very well might, but it also might not.
Yeah, there's no way of knowing.
Right. So,
to be honest.
All right, we got a couple more. What do we got?
Okay. The Pacers' Miles Turner says the Lakers should trade for Miles Turner. He said, if I'm the Lakers,
love it.
He said, if I'm the Lakers, I take a very hard look at this with the position that you're in. I know what I can provide for a team.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm sure Buddy will tell you the same. Give up the 2 damn draft picks.
That is great. That's like a Ricky Henderson moment. Miles Turner says you absolutely should trade for Miles Turner.
He was on the.
That's awesome.
He was on the Woj pod, said that, which is funny. And putting Turner alongside of AD and LeBron would make a huge difference.
And you add a shooter like Heald in there too. Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will say one thing. Earlier in the year, before the season started, I was iffy about that because I always saw Westbrook eventually playing the role he's in now as a 6th man, at least with this team. But the thing that I was concerned, if you trade Westbrook, Heald and Turner are starters, and they should be starters. They fit the starting lineup beautifully. But then what would that leave the bench in terms of an offensive creator? And I have to, the biggest pleasant surprise so far for me, I've always liked this guy's game, but now he's healthy and showing it. I think Lonnie Walker is capable of that role.
I got to see him stay healthy.
Well, I do too, but
for more than 3 weeks.
But he's putting up 18 points, 17 points as like a 4th or 5th option. I'm more accepting of that deal as an actual improvement for the Lakers than I was 2 weeks ago. Let's put it that way.
I'll take the wait and see on it, but I think he has the talent.
Would you that trade if you're the Lakers? Westbrook for those 2 and include the 2 draft picks. You do. Okay. Got it.
Sure. Just for the salary cap.
Right.
They don't want to pay the luxury tax that they're paying. Why they haven't done it already, I don't know. Unless there's something on the Indiana side that's holding them back.
Yeah. All right.
But it's funny that Turner would come out and say
that is hilarious. Gordon Hayward said something not quite similar, but along the same lines about a week ago. He was kind of campaigning for his own trade in a more subtle way. I would love Gordon Hayward. That guy's just an awesome player.
He is. Turner's tired of waiting. He's like, the hell with this subtlety. We need to get this.
Get me out of here. Let's go. I'm ready to buy my house. All right. I don't blame him. Look, I would feel that way too in that situation. Like, let's shit or get off the pot, right? Like, come on, let's do this.
That's it.
So, all right.
Exactly.
Got time for maybe 1 or 2 more. What do we got?
Okay, the Sixers lose their 2023 and 2024 second-round draft picks for tampering.
Your boy.
I think it's a joke. Because if they really did follow through on tampering, there would be a 1-round draft. Nobody in the league would have a second round pick. It's so stupid. Just walk away, please.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
If you really want to do something, 1, do it to everyone, and 2, fine them.
If you really want to stop that,
Fine the teams. No one wants to lose cash.
if you really want to stop that, the way you do it is whichever player was tampered with, his agent is banned from the league for 1 year. Watch how fast they'll stop. Because this is all backwater communication among players and stuff anyway, usually shepherded by the agents.
By agents. Well, agents run the league.
That's what I'm saying. So if you make it so that if one of your guys is the subject of a tampering conviction, like if he, like, let's take PJ Tucker as an example. Obviously, he's not the one tampering. The Sixers tampered in order to get him, according to this, right? So if that's the case, whoever represents PJ Tucker, boom, you're out for 1 year.
Ooh.
It would stop.
It would.
That would do it.
Hey, we solved another problem. That's a perfect way to put this puppy to bed.
I think so. I think that does it. Good show today. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow. World Series game 4 or 3 rather tonight, weather permitting. We hope. Yeah, the baseball thing's still going on. Believe it or not, it's still a thing. I got the Astros. But it's going to be good stuff. For Rich Anselmo, I'm Gary Ayd saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 to noon. Rick Tittle with Tittling Sports up next here on The Cave.